Do you guys remember Ruby Frank? I have to be frank with you guys, pun intended. I never actually watched this family like YouTube channel or anything like that, but I do know about the scandal and stuff and just how terrible she was to her children. And, given that a lot of you guys have found me through Teen Mom, and Teen Mom is kind of like family vlogging, but on a professional level, right? I thought the story would be rather interesting to you. So, one of Ruby Frank's children actually went on the record to talk about how detrimental to her childhood family vlogging was. She's really trying to put an end to the family vlogging industry. By the way, I was minding my own business, scrolling on the TikTok, and I saw that California, and I think this is in part thanks to Demi Lovato, they filed a lot of like these new protections for children, child in these like social media things, right? Like, a lot of parents make money off their kids on socials. And so a lot of like these family channels, like whether it's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, the parents have decided to move their entire families out of California. Do you know why? Because now in California, you have to actually pay your children. You're legally obligated to make sure that they have some money set aside from them from your exploitation. And so just for you guys to know, like if you guys watch these family channels, whatever, no judgment. I personally do not, but if you do, okay, just keep an eye out for the ones who have decided to leave California and they're presenting it like it's some cool new adventure, blah, blah, for the family. No, they're leaving California because they want to exploit their children in peace. They do not want to be obligated to pay their children for their children's work. Okay, just an FYI on that. But anyway, Ruby Frank's daughter has come out to talk about, she was in a House Business, Labor, and Commerce Committee hearing in Utah, okay, just last week, with her father, talking about the negative experiences that she had being filmed for her mom's family vlog. So she says that she initially thought nothing was wrong with appearing on video. She thought she was happy on video. But it turns out that she really wasn't. And I'm not using her name or anything like that because they didn't use her actual name. They're protecting her identity. Okay, you guys? So, quote, when I started getting older, I realized the YouTube channel had ruined my childhood, but at least I got some money, right? Oh, right. I actually didn't because my mom withdrew all of it in 2023. I worked hard for that money. I acted like someone I wasn't in front of the camera, and I earned that money. But I feel like my mom used me for money. And so she asked the Utah lawmakers to consider passing a bill that would require online creators who make more than $150,000 a year from content featuring children to set aside a portion of it in a trust fund for their kids. And so she says that she understands more than anyone the horrible situation that a lot of kids are in right now. I know I'm stuck with the trauma of YouTube. Even now, I can barely make friends because my whole life I was the center of attention. But now, without even realizing it, I seek attention from others or I feel like they don't like me. Then those people think I'm mean. Oh, you guys, really, really sad. It's, I'm not surprised that more and more of these children are coming out and speaking against family blogging and stuff. Like, I feel like maybe in the innocent early days before it became like people realized it was a huge business, it might have been innocent enough, people just trying to share stories about their families and whatnot. But then it got to a place where people were like, oh, wait a minute, like there's a lot of money to be made. And so some people were having kids just for the purpose of making money or having attention, right? Because attention is more alluring to money to some people too, right? And I think that Ruby Frank might potentially fall into this category as well. And so she says that she's pushing for this bill to prevent other kids from having to go through the pain of realizing that the compensation for years worth of time and effort is suddenly gone. As kids, you don't realize what you're subjected to, really. You're selling your life, your privacy, your body, and stories to the entire world. And as a child, you're involuntarily giving up all of that. You're selling your childhood. There's no amount of money that can make up for that loss. The least that can be done now is making sure that the child is getting paid for her work and has a right to remove it and walk away if she wants to. Well, you know what? Good for her. Because it is true. Now all that stuff is up permanently and you don't even have a say-so over whether it stays or goes. And I actually just finished watching the last episode of Teen Mom next chapter. And so if you guys saw my recap for the previous one, I talked about how uncomfortable Mackenzie's storyline about her son makes me. It just feels like it's way too much, not even a little bit too much, way, way, way too much, right? So basically what's going on there is that she goes through her son's phone on the camera, and then she sees, he's 13 by the way, right? Hi, Shem. And she sees that he and his friends are talking about, and it makes me uncomfortable to even talk about this because again, these are 13-year-olds, right? So they're talking about intimacy, right? In a more vulgar way than that. And so she's like, oh my God, is my son partaking in these sorts of things like on camera? So now these rumors are out there for the school, for everybody, right? On camera because of the child's own mother, which I find to be absolutely insane. And then in last week's episode, she took it a step further. She started talking to like, another woman. And apparently this woman's child dated her son, and her son is running around like with all, like it was bad. Like it was bad, So imagine that, like this YouTube stuff, like, yeah, it has a huge reach too. And I think a lot of these channels have an even bigger reach than these shows, especially Teen Mom now, right? But still, at least now, if this bill goes through, the kids will potentially have the option to ask for these videos to be deleted and whatnot. But that's not going to happen with MTV, right? Like it's syndicated globally. It's on the street. It's everywhere. And I find that to be just so damn sad. And I hate that, like, you and I, people who have like, it's not our duty to protect these kids, right? But we feel more protective of these kids than their own parents. And I feel like that is so wrong, So anyway, that's really, really sad. Guys, again, a lot of these family vlogger people, they're moving out of California specifically so that they do not have to pay their children for the work that their children are putting into these family vlogs. That's not okay, right? And so I'm glad that people like Ruby Frank's daughter are fighting for these laws to reach other states. And I do think that California is ground zero, and that you're going to see more of this spread across. And so I really do hope that this becomes a federal sort of law, right? Because come on, right? Like people have to be paid for their time in general. Like why are we still arguing for this, right? So Ronnie says, my kids used to watch Ruby's channel and my oldest cried when she heard about what happened to her kids. It's crazy. You really don't know what happens behind closed doors. People really try their best to put up a glossy, beautiful, perfect front, but wow, behind the scenes, it can get really, really, really ugly, real fast. Vicey says, it breaks my heart how these children are used to provide income for their parents. Exactly. Just imagining how many people are purposely, because we even saw in the Teen Mom world, right? Like some of the girls actually started trying to have kids as teenagers to get onto the show when they saw how much money and attention they can get. And so, YouTube has no barrier to entry almost, right? So you see even more of that on that platform. So be very careful about the type of stuff that you consume, right? Not that like the blame is on you, but just don't feed the attention, right? From these sorts of people. It's really, 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 bad. Or as Joy says, it's really extremely sick. It is. Good morning to Kahara and everybody else who's joining us here on the morning report. It is so nice to have you all. We've got lots more stories to talk about in today's stream. I also want to remind you guys that exactly at 5 p.m., I'll be over on Campire's channel with he and Layla to talk about Portia's husband potentially getting deported, the RHOP recap, and lots more. The link is pinned to the chat, so I'll let you guys know at the end of this that you can join me over there. Tadisha says Gannon was so uncomfortable, they should have had that conversation off camera, right? And for Mackenzie to have the nerve to ask this boy why he's so uncomfortable with his mom talking to him about this, as if she didn't have a full camera crew, right? It's not just one cameraman. It's a bunch of people in the room looking at this 13-year-old, right? Talking about this. It's terrible. Like Feisty says, he'll be humiliated at school. And it's like Joy says, even if the videos are deleted, the damage is done. And that is such a great point because guess what? You delete the videos, but that's only deleted on your channel. You know that there's a whole ecosystem of people who download creators' videos to stitch them or remix them or whatever, right? Or re-upload. So they exist forever. Once a video is out there, in the world, especially when a channel is as big as that one is, it exists forever, right? So someone else could just go upload it like, oh, this was the deleted thing, you know, or this is a clip here on TikTok. And so it just never really actually goes away.